Since the guitar relicing trend is kinda dying off, along with all the heated arguments on the internet, I've decided, as a person who reliced few guitars, to list some of the misconceptions about the relicing process, but also talk about all the new guitars. One of the biggest arguments aimed against relicing is being fake, and the advice is just to play the guitar until it looks played or aged. The problem is, you cannot just play a guitar until it's reliced. Why? Because guitars don't wear. Not only the new ones, but let's start from the beginning. Most, if not almost all guitars are covered with polyurethane lacquer, which is plastic. And plastic is known for being a really durable and resistant material, which is a good thing for 99% of the applications, car industry being the biggest. But it's not a good news when you want something to age. The same goes with hardware. Most of it is chrome finished, which again is a great news for everything except guitars. And no, you cannot just throw it into the muriatic acid. Chrome doesn't dull or age, it just chips away. But that's not the end of the bad news. No guitar since the 60s is capable of aging the way we all want. And that's including all the Gibsons and all the Fenders. All of those famous heavy relic guitars we love, Stevie Ray Vaughan's Strat being the most copied as a relicing reference, are guitars from the 50s and the 60s. It's because somewhere in the 70s they've already improved the nitrocellulose lacquer and the nickel plating processes to the point of being almost as durable as plastic. That is why you very rarely see 70s Strats looking aged good or aged at all. If you want a real deal, the 50s guitar is the only choice, so just save up and buy yourself a vintage guitar. The problem is, old guitars are not only way too expensive, most of the time they are not better than new guitars. I know, it's sacrilegious, how could I say such a thing? That is the other argument I hear, that 50s Fender is the better guitar anyway. No, they are not. The truss rods are bended in them, the frets are a nightmare to work on because they've been replaced so many times. And by the way, that Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat had at least 2 neck changes. So, the same goes with springs, tuners and bridges. Not as much, but still. And now, here's the thing that no one is talking about. Most of the vintage guitars have massive electrical problems. That is because no matter how true American blue-collar working class it is, electronical elements are just degrading. And the more aged guitar looks, the worse it is. Because that aging is corresponded with moisture, and moisture is the worst enemy of the electronics. So, most of those cherished PAFs and hand-wounded single coils are either dead or buzzing as fuck. And flat sounding. That's the other thing. I know what you're saying. No, this is not what everyone is talking about. They clearly somehow magically better. Maybe because guitars were made in a magical land of perfection. And all of those workers who've been making those guitars in the 50s, they were artists. Yeah, sure, but name me one car with electrical system getting better with age, or even staying brand new. So why guitars should be an exception? Because what's different in a copper used to wound coils, or what magical brand of wire they've used, or what's so super unique about Gibson's pots that prevents them from breaking or giving them that extra vintage taste. It's not a wine, it will never stay that way. That's amazing marketing, by the way, to convince people that they are listening to a good sounding guitar when they clearly hear massive buzzing and the sound of dying magnets. But not only old guitar guys are full of shit. Tell me, how many times you've heard the argument that relicing is making guitars play better? It's the feel, man. Feel of what? Okay, the thick layer of lacquer on the neck is a problem, yes. But the best method of fixing it, I know, is just sanding it to the matte finish with a steel wool. not stripping some of it, which accidentally make it look exactly like that old guitar you've seen. How having half of the lacquer off and half of it on supposed to work? And why do you want body half chipped as well? Your elbow needs that raw wood feel as well? It's because the lacquer keeps it from breathing. The wood needs to breathe. Listen, all of my guitars are bare wood covered with linseed oil. That is the most bare wood without splinters you can get. And guess what? It sounds the fucking same. Don't get me wrong, I do it because holding a bare old mahogany is an amazing feeling. But it just doesn't correspond with the sound at all. And your elbow don't feel shit. It's all the looks. And that look is very difficult to get right. Which is my last point. Relicing is not destroying guitars. We've all seen those videos of people showing broken guitars, saying that they've reliced them. No, you didn't. Scraping a thing on the pavement is not relicing. Neither is setting it on fire and scratching the hardware with a sandpaper. You cannot just bash a guitar and expect amazing results. It's because relicing is faking old guitars, not old broken guitars. Yes, it is all about the looks, and no, it does nothing to the playability. And yes, the new guitars are better, but they do age like shit. So how should we approach relicing? My best advice is to look at it as an art form. When you type guitar on Pinterest, you will see some pictures of brand new beautiful guitars, but the trending photos are the one of beautifully aged old guitars. So people do respond to that look. Why? Because natural materials tend to age gracefully. Wood, metal, leather, fabrics, naturally aged things just look organic and beautiful. So the relicing is making you appreciate guitar and guitar making as an art form.